Hey guys, so before I start, I just wanted to say that this was recorded 6 months ago, so I have around 500 hours on SFM, so some things that might be obvious to me might not be obvious to you. So be sure to type in the comments if you want to know specifics. Today I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks on SFM, I guess. It's gonna be pretty quick and not gonna be the very basics, so I'm just gonna go through what helped me a lot with the SFM. First off, I just want to say that this will be more towards art, because I do more art than videos, and I mean it works for videos as well, but just keep in mind you have to experiment yourself. But yeah, well, these are tricks for tips for basically everyone. First thing you need to take up is basically the rule of thirds. You probably heard that before, and the rule of thirds, basically this right here. You have the lines. I'm gonna do this very quick, by the way. So basically you imagine that these lines are here every time, and you want to place some things on those lines. So let's take this thing for example, and that house. As you can see, this tower is on this line, the skeleton right here. Always when you're doing something, even if it's a video or something, you need to think about the foreground and the background as well. So I didn't explain the rule of thirds very well back then, but basically if you put things on the lines, it will make it a lot easier and it will make the picture look better. You'll have to experiment a bit yourself, but basically if you keep these lines in mind, it should look better in the end, if you do it correctly, that is. So in most cases, putting something in the foreground makes the picture look better. It depends on the picture you're making or the video, but what you want to do is have something in the background. Either have something that contrasts the character, you know, that stands out, like this skull. So you want something in the background that attracts the eye. And a good way to do it is to either have a tree or a light. So in this example, I have a light. So here's another example of the rule of thirds. Put the snowman here, the focus is here, but stuff that's happening going on behind the snowman, it looks very boring at the moment. So how do you fix that basically? So lighting is a very important thing. It's very important to separate the subject from the background, and some people do not know you know, how to just give lighting to a picture. Okay, first of all, field of view. Everything when it comes to a picture looks very much nicer if you zoom in a lot. Not obviously not like this, but zoom in, go back, bam, just makes it a bit nicer. This is a perfect example of the field of view. You want it, you know, like this compared to this. When it comes to movies, field of view can be very important, but you won't be looking at it the same way as you would with the picture. And when it comes to lighting, you want to separate everything, but if you don't know how to light stuff, that's where the problem comes in. You don't know how to do it. My tip is to exaggerate the lighting around you. So what you can do for almost every picture is to put an edge light, and an edge light is basically this, a light. And for those who didn't know, you can drag the light on here and then you can control the light. An edge light is essentially just doing this. So it's just basically this. Let's put the light there, and it works for almost every picture or video. So this is what I meant with the edge light. Makes it separates the subject from the background. You know what to focus on, and makes it look a bit nicer. The lighting doesn't have to be realistic. I mean, logical to make it look good. And an example I have is a picture I made. This picture, as you can see, I have stuff foreground, background, but you can see the light doesn't really make sense in some of these. It looks good, but doesn't really. It's not very logical, but that's fine in most cases, and it makes it look a bit nicer basically. So let's go back to exaggerating everything, exaggerating the light. There's a green light, so let's that green light, and it's behind him, so yeah, as you can see, makes it a bit nicer. And exaggerating some of the lights basically fools people to think that the light reaches that far, but this is basically too far to make it look like this. But it makes the picture look a bit nicer. Something you might want to do to separate the subject from the background is to make him a bit brighter, and some of you might just do this, you know. Doesn't necessarily look bad, but not something you want to do. My way of doing lighting when it comes to making it brighter is just to make it a bit more blue. As you can see, looks a bit more natural this way. This way it looks a bit more natural. Just go down with the red and green, and you should have decent light in almost every picture to make it look brighter. Something else you can do is, you know, as I said, just exaggerate with this. Go down with the intensity, make it purplish maybe. There, and another light. There. Now, I mean, compared to just this, putting all these small lights makes it look a lot better, and you have to experiment. But, you know, in the end it should look pretty good. And if you don't know how to light it, just do what I did. Put the light beside, maybe a light a tiny light from above shining down, maybe just in front, and then exaggerate some of the lights around him. And in this case, you know, it's that green thing, the green skull. Another example of exaggerating lights and making it a bit different is this. I put the light here, two lights basically. One makes him brighter, the other one is an exaggerated light from these, a combination of yellow and green. Makes snowman look much nicer. Something you want to do is to either make the subject lighter or darker than the background. And again, with this picture, or with this, I have an exaggerated light from that. If you're doing a video, always try to squeeze out some lighting, because that's very important. Here you go as well. So this shot without the lights look like this. Some people do not put lighting or anything just because it's broad daylight. This is a good example. It looks decent. There's light coming from here, but this is natural light from the map itself. People just think this, you know, this is fine. This light is fine, but thing is that you can make it a lot nicer if you put some lights there. As you can see, I made him brighter. I separated him from the background and everything. So this is what we get compared to this. Lighting always works, even though it's just day. So if you're making a video or picture and it's day, just put some lights anyway. Doing that makes it look a lot nicer. So something you might want to do to separate the subject even more. I mean, this looks good and all. This looks decent, could be a picture, but you might want to do depth of field. And if you're making a video, this you have to use this very carefully, because this could make your render time go up a lot. But focal distance, I want to put it somewhere on him, and then just put the aperture how much you want. So I want to be like this, but then this is how most people just stop. They just stop here. The depth of field isn't very detailed, and that's when you go to render settings, depth of field, and you override it. You can also override motion blur, and then here you go. The depth of field is nice, it's very smooth. Makes it look a lot better compared to the other one, and depth of field can do a lot to a picture, and you have to use this carefully when making a video. So good for a video is to override it maybe 128. Still pretty smooth, and it doesn't look too bad, and the render time won't go up by too much. I used it for my Christmas video. I used 128 and it had a decent depth of field. Okay, so we're in my Christmas video now. So depth of field is a big thing when it comes to videos. Mostly videos. It makes them look a lot different. Imagine seeing this, just normally this, you know, then compared to this, makes it just look a bit nicer, doesn't it? Another big thing with most pictures and videos is the props you use. The scene building is very important. As an example, I have this picture, and these are no normal props, no normal models, and I have a model pack which almost everyone uses, and it's good. It's very good, but it's very, very big. Okay, so this model pack is the Themask model pack, scene building pack actually, and it's around 2 gigabytes. But if you look at the scene building themes here, you can see a lot, and it's still loading. This is probably the biggest scene building pack you can find, but you can almost find anything. Let's say I want just a vase, and we have, you know, vases, and it's still loading in. But yeah, you see what I mean. It has a lot. Let's say even pillows, so you can basically find anything here. This pack has almost everything you want, using props that have been used frequently in videos and anything. It doesn't really stand out that much. Could mean a lot compared to maybe some of these where they really stand out. You know, they're custom. Just know that they're not from Team 42, for example. They're not from CSGO or something. These are custom ones. These could really make your scene pop out a lot. Okay, so another thing that's fairly difficult is green screening, and I have some examples here. It's this first page here. I have this, and this. This is a green screen. I green screened out Sherry Birkin here. As you can see, it's Can't really see that it's green screened out. There's no like residue. Same with Ida Wong here. Can't really see it. I can show you in Photoshop how. We're back at this scene again, and so let's green screen him out. There are green screens and everything you can download. Much easier to green screen, let's say, a picture like this. Yeah, controls over all the colors here. As you can see, I made it green here, but it's an easy fix. Let's just make it blue. If you're gonna rely heavily on editing the picture in Photoshop, then I suggest going 4K. So 4096 times 2304 makes everything bigger, obviously. But if you, let's say you wanted to edit something on his face, maybe face paint or whatever, just something that you need to do pixel by pixel and stuff like that, you need to zoom in, you need to do it detailed, then you should probably do it in 4K. It takes a bit longer to render, but it makes it a lot easier to edit when it comes to Photoshop. And then you can resize it in Photoshop to 1080 or keep it at 4K. Okay, so here we have him rendered and everything, but here's an example of how much 4K can help you if you want to heavily edit it in Photoshop. So zoom in this far before it becomes pixelated, or yeah, pixel by pixel. Zoom in a lot, and this is a 1080. As you can see, it's already getting pixelated before reaching the eye like this, so there's a lot of space to edit. Another example of a heavily edited picture is this one, which I made, and it's in 4K, so editing the dollar bills and everything like this made it a lot easier. Yeah, well, first off, let's copy the background, and there are a few methods of doing this. The most common one, I'd say, is going to select here color range, taking the color, experimenting with this. Okay, this, but I found that sometimes leaves some residue, as you can see. That's not really a problem, but what you can do is make a new layer, hold Alt, so it's a child of it, and then you make it hue, and you basically take what color there is here, and you can go like this, and it makes it look okay, and then you don't need to necessarily remove it carefully. Let's go white here, skin color here. It's very different in real life because there's obviously different shades of green you see in the background, so you have to remove it in a different way, but here it's almost just one click. So the method I use mostly is background eraser. Pick this, make the colors the background, and I can just go like this. Okay, so here's a quick example of using just the background eraser tool. So I could just go, like this, and it should remove almost everything. So the color range method, it sometimes leaves residue, and when you do the background eraser, it barely leaves any residue. Actually, I rarely have to remove or do anything. As you can see, there's barely any green left. So when using a green screen, I'd say go with the background eraser, otherwise go to the color range. Depends on the background and the character, but should work fairly well. Then you can add whatever you want, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed. Hope it wasn't too long and too in-depth. Consider subscribing, and I'll be sure to make another tutorial if you guys want me to, and if there's anything you want to know. Other than that, have a nice day.